we think it's concrete. We think it's reality, and it's not.
There is no physical universe. It's all being made up. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all an illusion that appears real.
But illusion is a great word, because if you look at the word illusion, it says ill is in you.
You are experiencing through form or through the illusion, you are experiencing a reflection of yourself.
Nothing means anything. It's all mystery.
What we find is an atom doesn't actually exist. It's elementary particles. Those elementary particles are actually potentials for existence.
Reality gets created through acts of observation.
Whatever an atom is made of, it's not made of matter. That's becoming clear.
The perceptual error that's happening is because of something going on inside of me.
Now I'm not here to say that events in a dream don't appear to happen, but that doesn't mean that they're real.
The actuality of what's going on is much of how we perceive this reality is an illusion.
So what does it look like to go beyond the illusion of reality?
That inquiry can change a life.
There really is no me, and there's no you, there's no we. There's just that experience of unity and oneness.
If you're an infinite godlike being with all this power and wisdom and abundance, and you want to play a game, you can't just play tiddlywinks. You'd be bored to death.
It's like in The Wizard of Oz when you look behind the curtain. It's that.
And the ultimate challenge was, can I convince myself that I'm the opposite of who I really am?
It's just something that's coming from your own unconscious mind, a projection that you're viewing with your conscious mind, and you made it up, and then you forgot that you made it up.
If we've been thinking a certain way for 30, 40 years, is it a matter of just changing it right then?
As long as you think the illusion is real, and you're the opposite of who you really are, there's going to be problems.
With inappropriate change in the perception of how this is actually going on, you can resolve your case of mistaken identity.
You'll feel better, you'll enjoy things more, you'll enjoy sex more.
Off the charts, amazing things become possible.
Answering those questions enables us to enter what reality is.
What if it were true? Would you want to make the leap?
For thousands of years, numerous philosophers, visionaries, and spiritual leaders have described our reality as temporary or illusory. How could it be possible that all around the world and through the ages, a similar story has been told?
Today, we still witness this concept through modern-day media. The books related to the topic of our reality being an illusion are endless.
Over 6,000 years later, we're witnessing a reemergence of what could be viewed as the oldest idea in recorded history. Why would this concept be reestablishing itself in the human consciousness now?
In 2006, without yet knowing one another, we each began researching this ancient idea that our reality is an illusion.
I was raised in a practical, non-spiritual, blue-collar world. My family's motto was, live a responsible and practical life. In early adulthood, I began having direct psychic experiences. Not being able to discuss this with my family and friends at the time, I explored and developed my abilities on my own. After 20 years in this mystical world, I knew there was more than meets the eye, but I sensed I had still not reached the core of what was really happening here.
I have a heavy science background. My father taught science for over 40 years. I began my research by looking to science to answer some of the tougher questions. Quantum mechanics tells us that the classical rules of physics break down at the level of the very small, at which point it becomes apparent that matter is not made up of smaller units of matter. All matter is just energy. At this level, electrons pop in and out of existence. Once I understood the basics of quantum mechanics, the question that haunted me was, how can I prove anything is real?
While we both dove deeper into our research, we met and instantly became friends. With our extremely different backgrounds, we decided to form a partnership and pursue the nature of reality as a team. We were inspired to document our research and shifted our primary focus to contemporary illusion supporters.
We initially believed it would be difficult to find many people that had journeyed into this realm. Through modern-day access to information, we tracked down key people in a variety of fields that we believed would be able to help answer the questions that had formed inside of us. These people rarely, if ever, communicated with each other. Many possess key pieces to the puzzle, while none of them entirely subscribes to our interpretation. One puzzle piece led to the next, and what we discovered will challenge even the most skeptical. Being a science guy, science seemed like a logical place to start.
quantum mechanics is a description of reality right off the bat. So they do this whole thing about the wave-particle duality. And, you know, is it a wave or is it a particle? Well, it's neither. It's whatever it is. The electron's the electron.
They discovered that things didn't occur in smooth flows. And the basic quantum means an amount. It's the Latin for amount.
In order to communicate that with something that we can understand, we call it a wave or a particle. Because we have mathematics for a wave, we have mathematics for a particle. We experience them in the big world, so we can lay them on the small world and say, well, sometimes the electron's a wave, sometimes it's a particle. What is it, reality? In reality, it's the electron.
And Max Planck found that energy didn't come as one smooth flow of energy, it came in units, quantum of energy. This is the basis of quantum theory, is that everything comes in discrete amounts. What quantum physics found was when you get down to the quanta, that cannot be divided anymore.
Quantum physics has opened the door to our recognizing that we've left something out, and it's mainly this thing called the observer effect. The fact that when I observe something, I alter what's being observed.
When you start then applying that to physics, everything changes. And so the whole of quantum physics is really seeing the fallout of that change. From thinking that the world is continuous to seeing that it comes in discrete amounts. And then the mathematics changes, everything changes from that.
Like we connect the dots between our observations with speculations and theory about what's happening when we're not looking.
And what we find is an atom doesn't actually exist, it's elementary particles. Those elementary particles are actually potentials for existence.
When we're dealing with quantum physics, we're not dealing with reality in terms of objects. We're dealing with reality in terms of fields of possibility.
Matter is the way the mind interprets things. And we know that there's no such thing as solid matter. An electron, for example, isn't in a particular state. It has a potential to be observed in certain states of energy or position. And we don't know what that is until we observe it.
We're at the level where we can perceive it directly, so we lay all this interpretation on it.
How you interpret that, nobody knows. There's about 7 schools of quantum physics.
So now we're looking for something called the God particle. It's named after a physicist whose name is Higgs, and it's called a Higgs boson. It's a small, very small particle, which we believe is the kernel or seed particle out of which every particle comes into existence, with all the different masses that particles have. And these little seed particles have almost no mass at all. So we're looking at something being created out of fields, which are not things themselves.
It is a bit like religion. It's more fixed belief systems, which happens all through human life. We have a belief about reality, what's true, and we hold on to that belief and we defend it at all costs. I think we get more attached to our beliefs about the world than anything else. We let go of money, partners, lifestyle easier than we will let go of our fundamental beliefs. In fact, it was the physicist Max Planck who said, science changes not because scientists change their minds, but that the old scientists die out. Science proceeds funeral by funeral. We hold on to our beliefs about what reality is, whether it's an illusion or not, whatever it is. We hold on to those more strongly than anything. And then, as I say, do anything we can to defend those beliefs.
As you've just heard, at the atomic level, there's nothing there. If matter doesn't really exist, then where do we go from there? For me, I began questioning how my perception affected my reality. Perhaps my perception is my reality. If nothing exists like I think it does, then do I even exist?
Having come from a more mystical background, I enjoyed learning what science was discovering. Our understanding of what our world was continued unraveling, and the question staring us in the face was, is our entire reality an illusion?
Some people believe our perception is the illusion, while others believe our entire reality is an illusion. Let's first take an in-depth look at how our perception is definitely an illusion.
So is the world really an illusion? Or is it my perception that's the illusion?
If we step back a little bit and look around, this experiencing that we're all having from moment to moment is as real as it gets as far as we know. Where I step back a little further and say what is the actuality of what's going on is much of how we perceive this reality is an illusion.
My perception is my reality, right? And yet my perception is always changing based on who I believe myself to be.
The idea that we see the world, each of us as human beings, do not see the world as it is. We see the world through a window, a muddy window, a distorted window of our own beliefs, associations, ideas, opinions about the world.
The world as we perceive it is constantly shifting and constantly changing according to our beliefs and the decisions that we make, not only about the world but about ourselves. That's why one person can perceive an event completely different than another person because they're perceiving it through their own lens. So the question is, are those lenses reality? Is what's being perceived reality, or is there a deeper reality behind all of that is creating what we perceive moment to moment?
The world is real, but only to the extent that you experience it. It's all happening within you. That's what counts, that's what matters.
There's a Serbian proverb that says, two men looked out of prison bars. One saw mud and the other saw stars. Both mud and stars exist. Both are real, both are illusory. And that's part of the paradox of our lives.
What you are is a inherited and conditioned neurology meeting life, having that lens on a situation that gets interpreted by your brain, and then you reacting to it. With an appropriate change in the perception of how this is actually going on, you can resolve your case of mistaken identity.
The world is viewed through perception, through a field of lenses, and because it's all from where we're sitting in any given moment. Whatever environment we've come from, whatever family we've come from, whatever experiences we've come from, we view through those lenses. And so then everything becomes a reality based on what we come from in the past.
In this reality that we're living in is a Newtonian world, and Einstein's laws apply at the very massive level and at the very minute level. In the experiencing of this living, in the unwinding chain of cause and effect, this is a Newtonian experience, and that's why you have to make sure that you look both ways when you cross the street, because we may all be made of quantum particles at the end of the day, but in this experiencing at this moment, they're very densely packed, and that car's bumper will affect you if you step out in front of it.
Well, your perception is going to give you your experience. You know, you're living your reality through your thoughts. Okay? You have a thought, and that thought is going to give you a perception. And that perception is going to determine your experience. And that experience is going to determine your belief. And that belief is going to reinforce the original thought you had. The whole idea is to go beyond thought. Perception is just another thought.
So from the conventional view, certain things are true. Accidents happen. Death is real. We are separate, individuated beings, physically, emotionally, and mentally separate from one another. That can be demonstrated. But from a transcendental viewpoint, we couldn't be anything but one. That which is never born never dies. We are the witness of it all, pure awareness or consciousness. From the transcendental view, no accidents, only lessons. Perhaps it's all predestined, who knows? This world is real, this world is illusion. Both of those things are true.
So it's clear that your perception creates your reality. Look at a rainstorm. The cyclist could view the rainstorm as a ruined day, while the farmer sees it as a blessing. While everyone interviewed believes your perception is an illusion, the vast majority also believe that our entire reality is an illusion. Let's take a look at what these people have to say about our world literally being an illusion.
So the question, is it all an illusion, is a very interesting one because it can be interpreted on so many levels.
Now, Albert Einstein said that, a person's experience is kind of like an optical delusion of consciousness.
The idea of illusion comes essentially from the Hindu tradition, Maya, the word Maya, that the world is not as real as we think it is.
According to many great thinkers, from the Tao to Plato to A Course in Miracles, that which is reality does not shift or change. Reality is a constant, where nothing in this world is constant.
It's something that's been talked about for thousands of years. There's been different names for the fact that this whole thing is an illusion. And there was no evidence at all. It was taught. It's not real and it's an illusion.
That what we thought was real, there's a lot more to it than what we originally thought.
The reality that you perceive right here is an outward projection of your internal state.
Our true reality has nothing to do with what we're seeing.
And so what does it look like to go beyond the illusion of reality?
The first thing you have to understand is what the world is. The world is not a place. The world is a state of mind.
This thing that's left out of the equation, this observer, who is the observer? What is the observer? Is it just me, I, Fred Allen Wolfness that's the observer?
It's really simple. Nothing in the physical universe, or what used to be called, interestingly enough, the real world, is real. It's all made up. It's just part of the illusion. There's nothing here. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all just a movie made to appear real. And it's just off the charts that we could have created this illusion, make it appear real, and make ourselves appear to be the opposite of who we really are within it.
The universe began when nothing became aware of itself.
This infinite being, this godlike being that has more power, more wisdom, more abundance, more creativity than you can possibly imagine on your most optimistic day. And this infinite godlike being decided that it wanted to play a game, which is what I call the human game.
Life is an illusion doesn't mean life is without purpose. Life is an illusion doesn't mean that there's no point in being here. There's a huge point in being here, and that's to create. That's to experience life. And life as a game is an old motif.
We complicate the world, and we make this illusory world.
And it's a very hard thing to get your mind around because everything feels very real. I feel very real. You look very real to me. But what I'm really looking at is my experience of you is taking place on an internal level. So if I'm having some kind of concern about you, if I want something to change on the outside, I don't mess with the outside. That's like trying to wipe my mirror clean when I need to be shaved. What I need to do is look on the inside of me, change me, and son of a gun, magically, miraculously, the outer changes.
And that the last thing you want to hear is that it's all an illusion. In fact, that probably makes you angry to hear it because what you're experiencing is so powerful.
If you're an infinite godlike being with all this power and wisdom and abundance, and you want to play a game, you can't just play tiddlywinks. You'd be bored to death. If that kind of a being is going to play a game, it's got to be an ultimate game. It's got to be an ultimate challenge. And the ultimate challenge was, can I convince myself that I'm the opposite of who I really am? So in order to do that, you've got to create this artificial world, this illusory world, and pop yourself into the middle of it. And in this illusory world, you've got to convince yourself you're the opposite of who you really are. So that's where this whole illusion thing came from.
This world is just a story. And on one level, the story is very real feeling. We're all having a human experience. On another level, it's just a story. Then you don't have to take any of it too seriously. And if you don't take any of it too seriously, it means that you're much more capable and well-equipped to enjoy the ride.
Most people perceive that they are living as this body. They perceive that they are limited to the body. They perceive that they are living a world of separation, a world of duality. But when you understand the truth behind the form, and you understand in truth you are the formless, you are one energy. When you understand that that is who you are, then love is the experience and the expression of your life.
The truth can be heard in the dream. The truth is not in the dream, ever. You know, if you just remember that one thing, you'll save yourself a hell of a lot of time.
The way I look at it, there is a huge difference between thinking about something and analyzing something and having a direct experience of it. And from where I sit, there is no proof, there is no evidence that would really convince anybody that this whole thing is really an illusion. It doesn't matter who's talking, it doesn't matter how credible they are, it doesn't matter how scientifically objective it was proved.
The world is not being done to you. The world is actually being done by you. Right? It is not coming at you, it's actually coming from you. You know, it's kind of like a reversal of the way that the world traditionally thinks. And when you go to a position of being a cause instead of effect, then you're no longer a victim.
We perhaps look back at this much as we might when we wake up from a dream. And yet the interesting thing is that when you were in that dream, it seemed perfectly real. And therefore it was perfectly real, because it's really our awareness that makes something real, not the tangible proof.
It's simply about changing your experience back to what you really are. I'm not into like giving up, you know, the romantic walks on the beach and the beautiful sunsets and the lovely art and, you know, music. I've been a musician my whole life, you know, and I enjoy listening to music more today than I ever did.
Life is a game we play as if it matters. So there's that sense of the transcendent, that whatever we think is going on, there's a bigger picture going on, much beyond our understanding.
It is only when you are limited and your awareness is limited to knowing yourself as being the identity that you have fear come up, that you have judgments come up. How can you have judgment if it's all you? How can you judge something if you're responsible for everything that's taking place? There is no judgment, there is only acceptance.
You know, it's only a dream. You don't have to worry. You know, what you're seeing is not true. You know, it's just something that's coming from your own unconscious mind, a projection that you're viewing with your conscious mind, and you made it up, and then you forgot that you made it up.
As you've seen, many of the guides believe our reality is an illusion. In 428 BC, the philosopher Plato created a simple metaphor to explain what he thought reality was. It's called the allegory of the cave. The basic premise is to consider each of us has been a prisoner in a cave since birth. We're chained facing a wall. Behind us is a fire, and between us and the fire, puppets are moved around. The puppets create shadows on the wall we face, and we believe this to be reality. As you can see from your perspective, the prisoners had very limited knowledge of what reality was. Now consider if the prisoners were freed, they would discover their perception had been incorrect. They would believe now that the cave is what reality is. Again, from your perspective, you know there's still more to discover beyond the cave.
In the late 1500s, William Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players." Had Shakespeare discovered something about the true nature of our reality? Perhaps a modern-day combination of these metaphors will help us discover what reality is.
Numerous contemporary philosophers have described our reality as that of a movie. What if our reality is much like a movie? Could we be some sort of actor playing out a script here?
Or maybe a spiritual being having a human experience. What if our reality is much like a Hollywood movie?
Suppose that you were in a movie theater and you're watching a movie about something really cool and you think to yourself, I'd like to do that. So imagine that you're sitting in the seat in the theater and you get up and you jump into the screen and you become one of those characters in that story up on the screen, or you become a new character that just got written in. And whatever the scene was in there that was taking place, whatever it is, a sporting event or a business thing or a science fiction or whatever it is, you become part of that movie and you're convinced that you're the character that you're supposed to be in the story, and you're convinced that everything in that environment and that world is real, and you play there for a while. And then when you're done, you pop back out of the screen and you sit back down in the seat and you're in your normal life again. To me, that's what's really happening. We are creating these stories, we are creating these what I call total immersion movies with these very complex storylines, just like Hollywood does. And we create these elaborate special effects to make it all appear real, just like Hollywood does. And then we throw ourselves in the middle of them to have these amazing adventures for the pure fun of it. And that's what I really think is going on in what I call the human game.
If you were in a movie theater and somebody up on the screen started yelling at you, you wouldn't take it very seriously. Well, that's what this movie can be like too. Somebody in the movie can start yelling at you, and you can just kind of go like, and not take it seriously at all, because there's nothing there to be taken seriously.
The world is an illusion. It's a projection of a false idea. And that false idea is an idea of separation. When the mind is healed, there's no need for a world to project upon. The only reason we need a world is to have a screen upon which to project. So as we go through the forgiveness and the guilt is healed, we no longer need something to project upon. So it's just an illusion that we put out there, a screen, a movie screen, to project on.
If I was in a movie theater and I wanted to change what was up there on the screen, it wouldn't do me too much good to mess around with the screen. I mean, yeah, I might appear to change it temporarily, but I'm not really changing the nature of it. If I wanted to change what was on that screen, then I would have to remember something. I would have to remember that there's a projector and that the projector is hidden. It's in the back of the theater. And if I really wanted to have a permanent impact on what's on that screen, then what I would have to do is I would have to change what's in that projector. Only then would I be dealing with the cause instead of the effect.
Wow, that's an amazing way to look at your life. What if your life is truly an intricately detailed 3D holographic full immersion movie experience?
We're about to go deeper into our inquiry about the nature of reality. We'll take a look at several interpretations of questions such as, who are we, why are we here, and what are we experiencing? We were astonished at the similarities of the answers we received.
A lot of people ask the question, well, who am I, or who are we? And I think the more we enter into this reality, this experience of full awareness, we realize that there's only one thing going on. There really is no me, and there's no you, there's no we. There's just that experience of unity and oneness. And that's why mystics rarely try to explain reality, because it's beyond explanation. Oneness cannot be understood by a mind that is caught in the web of separation. The only way to understand oneness is to be released from the web of separation, and then oneness, which is really the same as truth, simply is present all around you, and you see it and perceive it as what it really is.
The one this one infinite energy manifested itself in its own imagination into billions of parts. And it gave each part thoughts. And through thought, you perceive that you are separate from this one energy, from this one infinite love. And your whole journey of coming here is to realize and remember again who you are, so you can become infinity again. So are we here? Are we really even here? Yes, we are. But we are here as one infinite energy. The whole idea of separation and that there's you and there's me and you're over there and I'm over here, that's just your reality. But in actuality, there's just one. There's one energy, and we're all experiencing through that one energy.
So the age-old question, who am I, is actually a very important one.
It's a big mystery how anything is in the first place. Where did it come from? Why is it here? Why should we be able to talk about it as if it was ho-hum, when actually it's, oh wow, gee whiz.
You're this infinite being who's right here in infinite land, which I just call it for the fun of it. And then you create this whole artificial universe that we call the physical universe, this playing field on which we play the human game. And you create, words are difficult here, but you create a version of yourself to pop into this illusion and be convinced that it's the opposite of who you really are. I call that the player, and you're the player of the game. And then behind the scenes is who you really are, who, just like in Hollywood, is writing the script, doing the special effects, doing the filming, creating the illusions, popping you into it, just like the director of a movie in a sense. And I call this part of you your expanded self. So there's the player of the game and there's the expanded self. We create the illusion of this split. It's not two beings, it's one gigantic being, but we create the illusion of it being split into parts. Because when you're playing the game and you're convinced you're the opposite of who you really are, you have no awareness of the fact that you're really creating it all, and it's all coming from you and your consciousness.
We're here to wake up because we have the reflection in our projections. Otherwise, we would never know what we were thinking. The purpose of looking out there at the world and seeing the horror and the chaos and the insanity and the suffering and the pain is so I can see what's going on in my mind. It's not out there. There is no out there. There is only in my mind, and it appears to be out there.
In every moment you're making a choice. You're either making a choice driven from love or a choice driven from fear. The thing is though, most people are not making a choice. They decide to not make that choice, and that is a choice driven from fear itself. If who you are is love, then doesn't it make sense that you're here to experience, to be, and to do, and to have what you love?
We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and so what that means is that most of what we see around us is based on material information, and so what we're doing is we're learning. We're learning how to get back to that spiritual foundation, which I think everything stems from. Love, harmony, peace, growth, expansion, evolution. And when we get to that place, we understand that it's all unity.
I choose to believe that I chose everything in my life that is going to happen to me before I was born, on some level. Do I know that's true? Haven't the faintest idea. But I'm going to live my life as if that were true, because I live differently that way. Instead of a victim, I go, well, if I chose this on some level, I might as well make the best of it.
I think that we have come here to experience love at its depth. I think that for me, love is the essence of spirit. And that energy, that essence is what you see in a newborn child's eyes. It's what you see in the first time that you know you're falling in love with someone.
Why am I here? I am to awaken. I am here to awaken to my potential, to my possibilities, and the truth is, for me, I'm here, I believe, to awaken to my own divinity, to awaken to my own connection or even merging with the divine. That means that Joe Vitale as his personality is here to dissolve into God.
You think that who you are is only this body, only your identities, then you live in a world of duality. You live in a world of separation. You don't feel in your heart that you're one with everything. You're not here to create something outside of you. You're here to find who you are and express that outside of you.
The great spiritual teachers are all saying that you are behind your ego. What I try to teach people is that you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, you're not even your body, you're behind all of that. My favorite phrase to use is that the whiteboard is the essence of who you are. So if you imagine a whiteboard, there's nothing there, it is white. And we start to write things on it. We write down, my name is Joe. We write down, I am an author. We write down, I am bald. I write down, my size, my weight. I write down the things I like. I play guitar. I like cigars. I write all of this stuff. That's all ego stuff. That's helping me get through my day. I'm having fun with that. That is wonderful. But what's more important and who I really am is the whiteboard.
There's only one reason to be here, and that's to be all the way here. To be just here. That's why we're here.
It seems apparent that you are part of something much bigger than just your skin suit. You are not your thoughts, your feelings, or even your body. You are the experiencing of living. Could it actually be that you are an infinite being that came here to hide your power and pretend to be limited in order to play the ultimate human game? And if this is true, why don't most people know about it?
The reason that most people don't realize that it's an illusion, or if they've been told it or they've read it somewhere and it kind of resonates with them, or they think it's crazy or whatever it is, they don't allow themselves to really get it or have a direct experience of it, is because they weren't meant to.
We want it to be real. And we want it to be real because we want to be real. There can't be a separated me without a world. They both are dependent upon one another. So we don't want to hear it that we really, really are imagined. We've imagined ourselves.
By the design, we are supposed to forget that.
Because they don't want to hear that this, I'm an illusion, this is an illusion. We're in a dream. It's no surprise that people run away from it.
So what? So what if it is an illusion? We still experience being here and have to deal with daily life, and it seems very real. At this point, something within us told us this was true. This idea resonated with each of us. It didn't make sense to our rational minds, and we weren't sure what to do about it, so we kept asking questions.
On one level, we know that it's not real, but it doesn't do any good to say it's not real. The response is the loving thing to do. What is the loving thing to do?
Who we really are beings overflowing with love and appreciation for ourselves and everything. So you don't all of a sudden become cold or insensitive or not care about people. But it does shift your perspective in other ways when you expand to the point that you get the truth of what's really going on. You know it's an illusion, you know you're making it up, you know it's a game, and you know it's ultimately to play and have fun. You look at things differently, but you still participate and you take the actions that you feel motivated and inspired to take in your day-to-day life.
It doesn't mean when you awaken to the actuality of what is that you stop feeling. You are in duality. You are having an experiencing of living. You just don't resist it anymore. You ride You ride the waves up and down as life takes you, and in many ways, you get to experience life much, much more fully.
Well, if you know that everything is an illusion, and you see somebody that's struggling, or you have a kid that's struggling, you're just going to kind of say, oh, it's just an illusion, I don't need to do anything, they're not real, they're not whatever. That's not the way the game is. You know, when you're in a movie theater watching a movie, you don't just say, that's not real, that's not happening. You believe it's happening, you get immersed in the story, and when you're living your life, even if you know it's an illusion, you're still interacting, you're still an aggressive participant. If my son fell tomorrow and cut his leg and it was bleeding, I wouldn't just sit there and say, well, that's not real, you can just bleed, we don't need to do anything. We'd go clean it up, we'd go put a Band-Aid on it. If I passed somebody in the street that was in a car accident and they were bleeding, or I saw a car accident, I wouldn't just say, that's not real, too bad, I don't have to do it. I would call the police or whatever it is if it wasn't already being handled, but that's part of the game, you know, you're in the game, you're in the illusion, it's made to appear real, and so you play the game.
It's not good enough just to say none of this is real, this is all an illusion, because the fact is you have made it very real. And your experience, regardless of what you say with your mouth, is that this is real. And you don't get out of that by just denying it. You get out of it by embracing it fully. You get out of the illusion by wrapping your arms around the illusion and loving it with every bit of energy you have.
I have two small children in my illusion. On one level, they may be illusions, but they're illusions I'm very inspired to treat as real. Discovering the nature of this reality has not made me numb to the love I feel for these creations. It's actually enhanced my appreciation of everything I experience here. My perspective on reality has changed, but as James Twyman said, you get out of the illusion by embracing it.
And this question of whether we need to do anything to wake up is paradoxical, because ultimately, no. It's the letting go of all doing that allows you to wake up. It's the letting go of holding on to whatever you think you should be, how you should be, where you should be going, what higher states are about. Letting go of everything, there comes that complete ease and relief that we're looking for. I think that's what so many teachers are pointing towards. And letting go is in just about every spiritual tradition, whether you see it as forgiveness, surrender, non-attachment. It's all about releasing, letting go. Because the holding on is what we're doing. The letting go is an undoing of holding on. It's a releasing. So it isn't a doing, and yet, this is where the paradox is, there's a lot of things you can do which may help you do the not doing.
The one thing that we need to do is change our minds. We don't need to do anything out there. We don't need to change behavior. We don't need to fix other people. We do need to change our minds.
Even the crucifixion is the clue. The crucifixion says nothing you can do physically with your hands can help you realize what is true. So hammer them down. Nowhere you can go with these feet, no sacred site, Machu Picchu, anything will help you know what's true. Might as well hammer them down. Okay, now you start to have that experience. Be with what's happening with you in the moment. And while you sit in there, the heat of your emotional body is going to come up. The fear, anger, and grief that you have been running away from by your doings and by your going into different places, these will come up. And when you allow yourself to sit in this, it will awaken your feeling capacity to the point that you can realize what you are and where you are. That heaven is now. That you already died. People go that this is death, right? This is not death. It's a physical shift of the experience.
No, there isn't a world to save. What you want to save is what you're experiencing within yourself. And again, when you change the internal state within yourself, the outside starts to change. There is a great benefit from trying to make a difference in the world, but that difference doesn't come from the outer promptings, it comes from the inner promptings. You want to pay attention to what's going on inside of you. When you feel inspired to do something that looks like it's making a difference in the world, it's making a difference in your world. You're doing it from the inside. For me, I want to pay attention to the divine's inspirations, the divine's nudgings from within me to do something. I don't want it to come from the media. I don't want it to come from other people. I don't want it to come from other egos. I don't want it to come from my own ego. I want it to come from the divine. When I act from that internal state, then I start to change the world. The world is totally fine the way it is, but we will grow and see more spirituality within it as we awaken within us.
Because I don't think the world needs saving. I really feel like the world's doing fine. I think that it's us that we need to put our attention on shifting and changing the way in which we think and the way in which we look at things.
Is there anything that we really need to do in our lives? Do we need to save the world? Here's the interesting thing, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to accept, especially if they're very involved in Save the Planet or Solve This Problem or Correct This Deficiency or whatever it is games. And what we call the physical universe and all the invisible aspects of it, like chakras and everything else, I call that the physical universe. It's just a playing field on which people are playing all kinds of very sophisticated games. None of it's real, none of it's really happening, it's all just games. So everything that you see around you, everything you see in the news, it's all just a story that you're making up in your mind. It's an illusion that you're creating and convincing yourself it's real. So no matter what the problem is, no matter what the problem with the world is that needs to be saved or corrected or fixed, it's just a game. So if it would be fun for you to play that game and solve that problem, solve the global warming problem, solve the pollution problem, make recycling, a mainstream thing, all these kinds of things, solar energy, whatever it might be. If it would be fun for you to play that game, you can play the game for the pure fun of it. But is there a real problem that needs to be corrected? Is there anything that must be done in the world, or else some terrible, tragic, whatever? No. It's all made up. It's all stories. It's all games. And you can go there if you want, but you don't need to, and there's no problem. And the really interesting thing is, I remember reading an article when I was a kid. The significance that it had on me was it was kind of tracing things back throughout history. And there were all these times in history where there were these really serious problems, and everybody was worried that if we don't fix this, something terrible is going to happen. And then just as mankind, so to speak, was like just pushed to the brink where that thing was about to happen, all of a sudden somebody popped out and solved the problem, The disaster never happened.
Another way to consider your reality is much like a video game. Is there anything the character in the game needs to do? Not really. If it's fun for him to feel trapped and limited, he can do this. But who is the character in the game really?
The video game is such a great analogy. Consider you create a video game. You build the screen, the computer, and write every line of code that makes the game come to life. Marveling in your creation, you move the character around in this virtual world, and you think to yourself, I wonder what it would be like to experience life as the video game character. We'll call that character Martin. The next thing you know, your awareness shifts and you are Martin in a 3D hologram. And to make it seem much more real, you choose to forget that you're also the programmer who created Martin and the whole game itself. Now, inside the game, you're experiencing life as Martin, and you've gotten so wrapped up in it that you actually think Martin's reality is reality. As the player in the game, this allows you to have a huge array of experiences that aren't possible outside the video game. Perhaps this analogy gives you some insight into your own life and what's really going on here. The interesting thing was that in our own lives, we found we were often having experiences that didn't seem like fun.
People tend to suffer when they resist the actuality of what is. We are here to experience duality. The ups and downs, the joys, the sorrows, the pains, the pleasures. And for those who don't understand that, it's a lot like resisting the weather. You get sunny days, you get cloudy days, you get thunder and lightning and rain, and you can resist them, but all you will do is suffer because it's not going to change the actuality of what is.
The question is, why do we believe in suffering? And then we project it and see it out in the world. So the suffering that we see out there, again, is the suffering in my mind. A mind that's split in two, that has two different thought systems in it, is in conflict all the time. And the way it looks when you look out there is sickness, pain, suffering, and death.
We suffer because of ignorance. We suffer because we don't know our connection to the One. We suffer because we don't know the connection that we have to that presence within ourselves.
It's not out there, it's in my mind. That's the effect. The cause is in my mind.
I don't know why people suffer, but I have seen the gift of adversity. I often ask people in my seminars, please show me your hands if you've experienced physical, emotional, or mental pain in your life. Of course, everybody kind of chuckles because it's a rhetorical question. Everybody raises their hand. And I ask them, would it be true to say you're a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser, and maybe even more compassionate, and have a better sense of perspective, having gone through that pain? And everybody nods, yeah, that's true. I haven't seen anybody shaking their head yet. I think it's in the challenges of life that temper our spirit, that forge our character.
A large amount of our suffering is our own creation, which comes from the fact that we interpret something in a way that makes us feel bad. I draw a distinction between pain and suffering. For example, if I hurt my finger, I may feel pain. Whether or not I suffer over it is a question of how I interpret it. Another simple example often used, stuck in a traffic jam. We may suffer, we may feel a lot of stress, etc. Someone else could be sitting in exactly the same traffic jam saying this is the least stressful part of driving. You have exactly the same situation, one person suffering, another person not suffering. It's nothing to do with the situation, it's to do with the way we interpret it.
But suffering happens when the mind resists what is. Teacher Byron Katie is very articulate in this, talking about the law of surrender and the law of acceptance, learning to take life as it is. And when we can learn to do that and make it over our way and learn to flow with life, swim with the current of the river, we suffer less. But whenever we go into this shouldn't be that way, people should be different, and resist what happens, that's when we start to suffer mentally. We stop saying, is God punishing me? Was I a bad person? Why is this happening to me? We go, this happened, I roll up my sleeves and move on with life, which is more empowering. Wish I hadn't lost my job, or I lost my job. What will I do now?
Ignorance of the way life is what ultimately creates suffering for us.
Well, if you talk to a lot of people, they would say that there's a lot of suffering in the world, and a lot of people are poor and they're suffering, and there's illness, and they're suffering with this or they're suffering with that. And if who you really are is an infinite, godlike being with more power, wisdom, and abundance, and joyfulness and ease than you can possibly imagine, and that's who you start out as, and you're going to convince yourself you're the opposite of that, you have to create the illusion of suffering. Because who you really are doesn't suffer, can't suffer, and you expand to a certain point back into who you really are, none of these things exist, because you start just experiencing joyfulness or pleasure or happiness, peace, whatever you want to call it, all the time, no matter what's going on. And you see the illusion of it, and that illusion gets collapsed, and you begin to live more and more and more and more in your natural state, which is joyfulness no matter what.
For the longest time, when I looked out and I can see TV shows, newspapers, the media, neighbors, friends, family suffering, I would feel that and say, boy, there is a lot of suffering in the world. But then, as I've grown into a new perspective, a new awareness, I've looked and see that that suffering I've noticed is actually in me. I'm experiencing and projecting suffering. I'm imagining that they're suffering. It's quite possible that the people who are complaining out there that I thought were suffering are actually enjoying their drama. But I was perceiving it as suffering. So what I have to do is look within myself, and the suffering is there. When I disconnect that, then I see peace. I see people having fun with their drama. Even though they may not call it fun, they're having fun on one level. Most likely on an unconscious level, but that's all because we still need to awaken, myself included.
Our experience has been that the world is an illusion, and when you resist your true nature, you will experience discomfort. But once you expand into a place where you get beyond the intellectual and have a direct experience of who you truly are, you're able to zoom out and watch the events of your life unfold with less and less attachment.
Is it an easy process? It hasn't always been for us. But the more we wake up to who and what we truly are, the easier it gets, and the more joy and peace just seems to show up.
If we're something much greater than what we've related to all these years, what about the you we used to think we were?
Identifying with mind, body, emotions, personality, and circumstance as who you are is ego.
It's kind of like an individual idea. What would it be like if I went off and tried this on my own? That I is the ego. That I that thinks that it has a personal identity, changed everything, because before that you had just perfect oneness.
When you see through the illusion of conscious will, the ego basically dissolves as you become the everythingness of your experiencing.
The ego will always want to understand before it thinks that it can change what it understands. And yet, that is in itself what becomes one of the greatest blocks for our ever-changing. Because the ego wants to understand what it has made up, which isn't true.
You think that everything is separate, that's where your ego will kick in. That's where you'll be living as your thoughts. Your ego is fear-driven.
Well, for me, the ego is a safety device. The ego is our persona that helps us get through the day, but it's serving you, it's helping you survive, it's helping us get some things done.
Oh, the ego. Edging God out. The ego really, I really think that the ego gets birthed out of thinking it has a job. And the job is to protect us. The job is to take care of us. But it's so ensconced in separation and fear and doubt that it starts guiding us down these paths where we're blinded. I mean, it's really interesting to me that we walk down streets and refuse to look in the eyes of another human. But that's ego stuff, saying, oh, they're dressed that way, don't look at them. They're that color, don't look at them. They've got this strange kind of vibration. Don't look. I mean, it's like, that's all ego stuff that doesn't let us know that every single human being wants the same thing. We want to love and be loved, and we want to be safe and secure, and we want food for ourselves and for our children. We want to live in harmony. So what would stop us from remembering that when we see other people? That's the ego. Because it's going, oh no, I need to keep you safe from whatever. But it's not true.
Ah, the ego, the internal brain chatter. With this mischievous little thing running in the background, can we ever find happiness in life?
Can we find happiness in this world? My message, my biggest, most passionate, heartfelt message is absolutely yes. It's right here. It's right here in this moment. I and so many other people have chased happiness. We thought it was going to be in the next book, the next business deal, the next rush of income, the next car, the next relationship, the next house. I mean, on the road, just keep saying whatever it is that you want. And it chases you down the road because you think, when I get that, I will be happy. It's the grand illusion. As soon as you get it, you're happy for a nanosecond. Then you go, what's the next car? What's the next house? What's the next relationship? And you're running down the road again.
Happiness is here, where you are, as you are, who you are.
I once was a complete devotee of happiness. I wrote much about it in Way of the Peaceful Warrior, because I saw that so many of us pick symbols of happiness. Oh, if I only graduate from college, I'll be happy. Well, college graduates find out that's not true. Maybe for a little while. If only I find my soulmate. If only I have children. If only I had children, I'd be happy. If only I didn't have children, I'd be happy. If only I made more money and had a great career. All these things, but what life teaches us as we experience these things is none of them make us happy stably. We have moments of happiness, moments of sadness. Emotions pass like the weather. Sometimes this, sometimes that. But I used to think happiness was the key, because all those things we thought we needed and wanted really represented happiness. All we really wanted to be was happy. Because if you're happy, who cares if you live in a hovel somewhere? So I thought that was the key to everything. Find a way to be happy. That's what my mother told me.
We can't find happiness in the world. By looking for happiness where it can't be found, we never find it. If we seek for happiness in an illusion, which the world is an illusion, then what we'll have is an illusion of happiness.
Every moment. I think to just look around us, to look in the eyes of another human being, to look at the sun, to look at the trees, the animals, I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. The miraculous nature of the divine. And yeah, you see that, it cannot help but bring you joy.
It's the happiness that comes when you know none of this is real, none of this can affect you, and that you're free. The mind is free, and when the mind is free, it will return naturally to its home.
So now we know happiness is all around us. It's been said that looking for happiness is like a fish in a lake looking for water. When we discover who and what we truly are, we're flooded with joy. People spend their entire lives searching for what will make them complete. If you ask almost any parent on this planet, myself included, what is the number one thing they want for their children, they almost always reply with, I just want my children to be happy. Each of us is someone's child.
So you've heard a lot of people from numerous philosophical backgrounds talking about the nature of reality. Right now you're most likely in one of three places. You could be thinking, these people are crazy. How do I turn this thing off? For some of you it resonates, but you're not sure why it matters in your daily life. While others may be thinking to yourself, I know this is true, I've always known it to be true. Regardless of where you might be at this point, let's take a look at how you can benefit from these ideas.
So many people will ask me and they'll say, so what? So now I know. Great. How does this actually benefit me? Now that I know it's an illusion, what can I do about it? Well, the first part is that at least you have some awareness. You're awake. And once you now have that awareness and you're awake, it's very hard to go back to being ignorant. Of course, we say ignorance is bliss, and believe me, there are times when I wish I didn't know any of this stuff so I could go back and say, you know what? I really am just victim of the world, and it's all because of them that this is happening. But the truth is, it's because of me.
The benefits of seeing life as an illusion, or the world as an illusion, is that you don't take it seriously anymore. And when you know that, then you're free.
Feel the peace that comes without the need to judge anything, but just to be. It is not more complicated than that. That is how the business of awakening occurs.
When you see through what is not, when you see through the illusions of most of humanity, you are then free to fully be the experiencing of living. When you start to enjoy this unwinding chain of cause and effect instead of resisting one side of it, life is a lot more interesting. Like the literal fact that the camera that we were supposed to do this shoot with was stolen yesterday. When you guys woke up in the morning and the camera was gone, nobody actually freaked. It was very interesting. Everybody just was on to the next thing, borrowing a camera, finding a new place to do the shoot. We end up doing the shoot here, which has turned out wonderfully well. And when you don't resist it, life is a lot more enjoyable because it's the everythingness of what you are all the time.
Benefits are, first of all, you get the very thing that you're looking for. You get happiness. You want to be happy, you're searching for happiness, you take on the belief, you are now happy. The other thing that happens is that when you're in this moment, you realize the miracle of this moment. This moment is an astonishing miracle. I used to not know that, I used to not believe that, and I sometimes still forget that. But when I realized that, oh my God, this is it. This is it. I'm chilled right now. I got electric shocks going up and down my body because I'm realizing this is the moment of bliss. This is the moment I've been waiting for. When you start realizing that, you are living a life of awe and wonder. Your life takes on this degree of miraculous quality that is almost indescribably delicious.
You enjoy life more when this happens. Now, a lot of people think it's about giving up things in this world. I contend that you can enjoy this world more, not less. And I know that it's good for me. That's why you should do it, unless you just want to stay separate and miserable and depressed and die.
When you see the world as an illusion, or when you see the form, or when you understand or experience the form outside of you to be formless, then the world outside of you is not determining how you feel. For most people, the world outside of them is determining how they feel every day. True freedom is when you're free from that and you can live the life that you love to live.
And you expand to the point that you have absolute certainty, which nobody can identify with by thinking their way there. This is a place that you have to expand to and have a direct experience of. When you have a direct experience of that, it is the most amazing, extraordinary, freeing, joyful, I call it creative ecstasy place that you could possibly live. So why would you want to go there? Because, to use very limited language, fun beyond your wildest imagination is there. When you get to the point that you have absolute certainty of what's really going on, and that you're creating it all and can create anything for the pure fun of playing, no limits or restrictions, that's beyond anybody's wildest imagination of what they could do while playing this human game kind of a thing. And to me, there is no better game in town, just to use the word better. I said before there's no judgment in this, but I prefer that game is an awesome game to be able to play.
We've discovered this is an empowering context to live your life from. Is it the truth? Our own direct experiences have shown us that it is. Now that you have this information, you get to choose your truth for yourself.
A pretty simple question, actually. Do you want to be free? Do you want to experience nothing but love? You don't have to consider whether it's possible or impossible. You just have to decide whether or not you want it. And that's a far more difficult decision than you now can recognize. But if you do, once you make that decision, there is nothing that can prevent that from coming to your awareness. Nothing.
Most of us are like children when a parent's trying to wake them to go to school, to get up for their day, and they just want to sleep a little more. Most of us human beings want to sleep just a little more. Please don't wake me yet.
To know that there is another option here, and to know that none of this is real, is an extraordinary release.
We're playing this fool's game. We stay in drama. We stay unhappy. We don't get the results that we want. We don't get the happiness that we want. We have to look past all of that and go to what's real, which for me, the whiteboard, divinity, God, the universe, that's source.
You can choose to say with your mind today, tomorrow, all you want, that the world is an illusion. And it is. But really, what's most important is that you live the reality of who you are. And when you do that, then the illusion that you perceive wherever you go just falls away, and you're left with an experience that the world will never understand, the experience of who you really are.
There is absolutely nothing I can convince you of to be true here. There's nothing I can tell you or teach you, because this that we're talking about here can't be understood by the mind. You can't convince the mind of it. You can't make an argument for it that will somehow come out to, oh yeah, that sounds right. No, it won't sound right. It'll sound off. And you'll have all kinds of excuses and arguments about why it couldn't possibly be true or work in your life. But just to listen and to see if something strikes a chord as being true, if something is recognized. Recognize. It means you've already cognized it. You've already seen it. You've already known it. I'm just reminding you.
Things like this movie are really meant to be just another tool to keep reminding us of our truth, that we're whole, that we're complete, that we're loved.
Your experience is the truth, while you're taking someone else's experience. For example, that's why they say if you meet Buddha on the road, shoot him. Because if you meet Buddha, he's so radiant, you want to have his experience. Then who's going to have yours? It's only through our own experience. What the mental body does is it wants to find someone else's experience, someone else's model, someone else's system, and then that causes the schizophrenia that we're living in at the moment in humanity. Of, I have my experience, which is going on in this moment. And then I have an experience which is given to me by someone else, by an outer authority, that I'm told, whether it's a religion or politics or a science or quantum physics or whatever anyone's story is, because these are just stories about the vibrational. You know, Jesus told a fantastic story, right? Buddha told a fantastic story. Muhammad told a great story. Einstein told a great story, right? We're just all telling stories. No, but the best story that you can tell is the one that comes out of your experience. If you tell that story related to what's unfolding with you, and then you may communicate it to someone else as a story. If someone takes that story and mentally analyzes it and then starts physically acting out of that mental analysis, that's the illusion. That's what's not real. The only thing that's real is, for me, is my experience in this moment.
Only you can step through that door. And the only way you can do that is by searching and seeking your answers within you and not the answer outside of you.
It has been a process. This is really like bending spoons in some ways. It's a mind training. And when I say training, it is a constant process. And for me, that means putting things in place, putting the right people around me that speak the same language, reading these books, supporting myself with things that keep reminding me of my truth. This is a muscle like anything else. What happens if you go to the gym once? You get sore, right? Well, what happens when you go consistently? You start working the muscle. Your mind is another muscle. And for 20, 30, 40 years, I don't know how long, we've been conditioning our minds to think a certain way. So I know in my experience, it's really been about working that muscle consistently.
To awaken to what we really are while we're in it. That's the game. And the consequences of accomplishing that are profound. Every time someone does it, we either worship them or kill them. I mean, it really impacts us, right? To have the immortality consciousness in the mortal world, that's the game, right? And once one is playing that game, there is no other game to play. There's no other game to play. You can't go back and go, well, I'm really here to earn a living. I mean, I'm here to earn a living when I'm alive. Doesn't make any sense.
The more you can be present in the experiencing of this here and now as what you are, the freer you will ultimately be.
Well, as you can see, there's a path right here. If you began walking this path right now, you wouldn't know where it would go. This is very much like your life. Maybe in the beginning you thought you knew where it was going to go, but if you reflect, you're someplace now that's probably surprising. What we're asking you to do is to take a leap of faith, a leap of trust, to take the leap to get on this path with awareness. Walk down this path not knowing where it's going to go, knowing it's actually an illusion. That as you take each step, and you can see each step that you're taking, the next one becomes apparent. You keep taking it, you go through the woods of life, and at the end, you've had this remarkable journey full of love, magic, and miracles.
You've been hearing a lot of people say a lot of crazy stuff here in this movie. You've heard me talk about a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of wild stuff, that all this stuff that you thought was real isn't. And all these things that you thought had power over, you don't. And that you're the one who's creating it all, and that you have the ability to step back into that creatorship position and expand into a place where you can play this human game with no limits or restrictions of any kind. And that's some pretty wild stuff. But the question that I invite you to ask yourself right now, no matter what kind of noise or yeah but or whatever might be in your head right now, is just ask yourself a very simple question. What if that were true? What if it were true? If you knew that was true, would you want to make a leap onto a path that could take you into a place like that?
So what if it's all an illusion? What if you had an amazing shift in your consciousness?
What if you absolutely knew anything was possible and now you knew how to access it?
You've seen people from numerous backgrounds that have made a strong case for who you really are. The question now is, what are you going to do with this information?
If you resonate with this idea, we encourage you to explore it further. Bookstores, workshops, seminars, our own website provide a lifetime of material.
If you're related to someone specific in LEAP, go learn more about them.
Will this cause you to step out of your familiar paradigm? Will it set you on your own journey to wake up from the dream?
The only question that really matters in the end is,
will you take the leap
or stay asleep?